Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Crash Couch. It has definitely been a while, but we are finally back to resume our discussion of Season 4 of The Expanse. A little late, but hey, better than never, right? I'm your host, Chris McGuffin, and I have three people here with me today. First is Ian.
Hey, what's up?
And Ernie.
What's going on?
And last but not least, Joel.
Hey, it's Joel, I think. Yeah, it's me.
How's everyone doing?
Surviving. I'm good.
I'm
good.
Putting on weight.
Yeah.
I haven't seen.
I had
the
to
sun
shave
in
off my
5
beard.
years.
Yeah. Yesterday we went. Speaking of not seeing the sun, yesterday we went on a family trip. So I got 3 kids, and it's very hard to keep them entertained when everything is closed. Like kids museum, nope. Park, nope. So we went on a super long drive up to northern Washington yesterday. And there's tulip fields up there, and you could drive by, and there's like just acres and acres of tulips, and they're super beautiful. Normally you can get out and walk around and like look at them, but you can't. So we just drove by a bunch of them and then found a super empty place to let the kids get out of the car and run around. Anyways, we're coming back down, and there's this turn if it's like the sun is setting and you turn on, it's on I-5 major highway all down the West Coast. And if you hit this turn, the sun just burns your eyes. And I had my sunglasses on my head. We turned the corner, and the sound that came out of my mouth was I was really like, and like I pull my sunglasses down. I was just like, oh my gosh.
The term is called Nosferatu.
Yeah. Oh, I felt like such a vampire. I was just like, Anyways, that's my haven't seen the sun in a while story.
Yeah, it's been raining here in California too. It's kind of been weird. We get like a sunny day of 70 degrees, and then the next 6 days are all just raining. It's been so bizarre over here.
That's crazy.
Well, it snowed here in Nashville the other day, so that was really weird.
Of course.
Yeah.
Because why not?
Like it was like 70 degrees one day, and literally the next day it was in the 30s and snowing, and it was just very odd. Last thing I was expecting to see that day.
I am from Canada, so just that makes me happy in many ways.
Hey, there goes Joel skating.
Yeah.
Skating with his hockey gloves.
In case anyone's listening to this way in the future or has no idea what we're talking about, we're recording this in the middle of the massive world quarantine due to the coronavirus. So that's obviously been a massive change in the world, pretty much for everyone. It's weird for me personally because my personal job, like what I do on a daily basis, can technically be qualified as essential, even though the business itself is not essential. But since then, we've started developing like those protective masks, not the medical mask, but just like the cloth coverings. And so now we're technically an essential business. So it means a little bit less restrictions on us as a business. But my job is just not changed really at all. I do the same thing every day, just like I was doing this time 2 months ago. The only difference is I can't come home and go anywhere. I have to go to work and then come home and stay home. I can't do anything. So it's a very weird adjustment for me personally. But,
yeah, that is really weird.
Yeah.
It's the polar opposite of my issue, where I am just constantly surrounded by people, the same people every day.
And hopefully we're in the middle of this pandemic, because if we're still at the start of this pandemic, that's going to be bad.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
We're trying to look on the bright side, though, of this whole pandemic. And one of those things, I think, for anybody listening in the future, or even when this episode releases, we may have some new Expanse fans, which I think is awesome and kind of brings out the fandom again and out of hibernation or Nosferatu. But yeah, I think it's exciting, and I'm kind of glad we're getting back to it. And there's some good coming out of the pandemic, even though it can be a little scary.
Yeah.
I think there's going to be a lot of people adopting the bolter lifestyle, and that's going to catch on, right? Strap yourself into a crash couch, watch TV or your monitors, right? Okay. Make sure you have like information screens in front of you. Yeah. What more do you want? Coffee?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And obviously, if you are a fan of The Expanse, you should definitely be telling people to watch it if they have an Amazon Prime subscription and need something to watch, because why wouldn't you?
Completely agree.
So we're going to be talking about episodes 5 and 6 today. Not going to do the whole scene by scene recap or anything, just sort of general discussion, what we liked, didn't like, things that popped out about these episodes. Don't really have to go in any specific order either. I literally just finished watching episode 6 before we finish this because, surprise, surprise, I've not actually finished the season yet. I kind of got yeah, things just got super crazy at the start of the year, and obviously we weren't recording this podcast regularly, and I just had a lot of stuff going on, plus the whole virus outbreak thing, and it was just super weird. So I actually kind of forgot that I never finished the season, so it was actually kind of comforting to go back and watch or continue it today. But I just finished 6, and I've got to say, I loved the part with the water. I think it looked really cool, and it kind of surprised me at how good it looked. I know some people on this podcast have criticized some of the computer animation in the past.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
I wonder who that could be.
I don't know.
One little comment from season 1.
But I thought it was very exciting and looked good, especially for a show of this magnitude. Not super high budget, but not super low budget. So that's just something I wanted to say, just since it's fresh in my mind. But we don't have to obviously sit here and talk about water for 45 minutes.
Well, I thought it was cool. I mean, it was a very intense way to end the episode. Like, it was like I was rewatching and I was thinking it's like an Indiana Jones moment,
Yeah.
We're holding like he's cranking up the thing, everyone's pulling on it. We got 2 different whatever geometry, math, algebra the term is for when you're using a crowbar to lift something up.
Physics, maybe.
Physics.
Leverage.
Algebra.
It's so technical.
Yeah, so leverage. We got the front leverage, we got the back leverage. Those are terms. And I'm gonna shut up. It was a good moment.
I mean, nice. That's a good one. It got me there. I know we kind of mentioned it on the first episode of the Crash Couch, but we were talking about the move from Sci-Fi to Amazon, and I'm still amazed. And one of the things I was noticing is not only the graphics of the water and everything kind of coming at full speed, but I think one of the upgrades has been the color grading of the show.
Yes.
When the Aftershock hit and they're in the trailer, and then when they go outside and see the debris, it's kind of got this grayscale kind of tone to it. But I just feel like everything has improved since the move to Amazon, and the graphics. It looks like they spared no expense because it just looks beautiful. It looks real.
Yeah,
I can't say anything more.
I'll just have one caveat on this, okay? Everything has improved in terms of production quality and the looks, but not for our poor characters and the poor people actually in the series. Yeah. Shock waves and earthquakes and aftershocks and this amount of water that's used. So, I mean, what else would happen? Like, these poor people, what else bad things going to happen?
I guess we'll find out in episode 7.
It almost seems like biblical to me, though, where they're kind of being attacked by these natural disasters, right? Like, you kind of think of like the Old Testament, and it's not that like I'm religious or anything, but it kind of reminds me of those old stories, Noah's Ark and even the locusts and all that stuff. They're getting attacked by lightning, they're getting attacked by these earthquakes and this flood. It's all very biblical, and kind of trying to figuring out how this machine works on this planet that they have no idea what it does.
Right. So you have the locusts from like the first episode of the season, or the second episode, right?
Razor locusts.
Right. So that was kind of cool. Yeah, it's kind of like the wandering and lost tribe of Jews and ancient or old Israelis. It's definitely Old Testament stuff happening.
Yeah, well, I just watched what's it called? The story of Moses, the Prince of Egypt, with my kids on Passover, and it's like just visually seeing all that crazy crap, and then comparing it to the show. It's a good comparison. It's biblically epic.
Yeah. And on the backdrop of real life of this pandemic, it's like, who is government telling the truth? Who's telling the truth? Why is there politics going on? Hey, we shouldn't believe the scientists. We shouldn't believe the guy who has this projection going on in his head. What do they know?
I mean, the worst thing that we're facing is not having toilet paper. So I think I'm good.
Yeah,
good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll take that.
What would you rather have, a massive toilet paper shortage or a tsunami? Pick your poison.
I mean, there's the 3 seashells. Everybody get that reference?
I will say, though, as I was watching this, and again, this is coming from someone who hasn't finished the season yet. I know you guys obviously have what feels like a lifetime ago at this point, because 2020 has just dragged on. But it was really only, 4 months ago that, 3-4 months ago that this had just dropped.
Yeah,
so
it's crazy. It doesn't feels like years ago at this point.
But as I was watching this, I kind of, maybe it was just that mid-season lull, but season 5 really didn't do anything for me. But season 6 episode 5 didn't do anything for me. Episode 6, picked up the pace a little bit, and it got me thinking how much I miss the whole weekly aspect of this show. And I almost wonder if the writers are trying to if they still have that in the back of their mind, or if they're writing for a season-long arc. I'm curious too what season 5 will be and how the two will compare too. But I still got that sci-fi feel of, okay, I'm going to turn on the Sci-Fi channel at 10 o'clock on a Wednesday or 9 o'clock on a Wednesday and watch it, and then I won't know what happens until next week, because I do miss that, and I still think that the season was written that way, especially episode 5. So it has a lot more character development, scenes that would probably previously be classified as filler in the previous seasons, whereas now it has more time to develop because they don't have the time constraints of an episode or commercial breaks or anything like that. So yeah, that was one observation I had.
I think it's in the sense of being transparent even to our listeners. It's kind of weird because there's like a fan side that I take and then the podcaster side that I take. As a fan, I'm excited that all the episodes are getting released all at once, because I'm always at the end of one episode, especially this season. For some reason, it feels like there's a lot of cliffhangers. I'm always like, what's going to happen next? So there's that side of it. But for the podcaster side, I do feel like, and I've used this term with Chris, it does feel like the air was taken out of the room, like the tension that we had to wait, for an episode the following week is kind of gone now. And so I almost feel like when I was watching, this was back in December they released this.
Yeah.
End of December.
Yeah, when it was December, I don't remember what happened much. I had to kind of go back and rewatch these episodes. So it almost, I don't want to say it wasn't memorable, but it did feel like I didn't get to analyze as much as I would have in the past when it was a TV show being aired weekly.
Right. No, totally. Yeah. There's in the world of market research, there's a term that's top of mind, which I mean is a pretty common term, but it's not top of mind because you binge the whole season and then you're on to the next show, and then you're on to the next show, and you're on to the next show, and it's 4 months later. So I think I have to look it up. Our watch schedule had it going from like December to like late February, I think. So if you're watching it weekly, it's on your mind for 2 months as opposed to for a week. And then you just kind of forget about it, whatever. Yeah, I think it does. The show as a whole kind of loses its impact just because you're not thinking about it as much.
I feel like it'd be one of those things where I wish it would change for the next season, just to kind of add a little bit more tension, because these episodes feel like a tea kettle. Like everything is building and layering on top of each other, and we're waiting for the steam to blow. Chris just noticed the differences between 5 and 6 and how much more tension was in 6. While even in 7, 8, and 9 and 10, all that tension just keeps rising because it seems like the room gets smaller and smaller and smaller, so to speak.
Yeah, and speaking of cliffhangers, I was going to mention it too. It's kind of funny. Episode 5 ends with a giant fiery bomb, and then 6 ends with a flood, which I thought was interesting.
I will say that it sort of brought me back to the time when I would go and watch the episodes weekly, especially when I saw the episode 5 cliffhanger with the bomb, because I was like, or the explosion. I don't know if it was a bomb. But that explosion, I did not know what to expect. I was like for just a brief second, I was like, ooh, I wonder what's going to happen next. Wait, never mind.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
It's already there.
Yep. Yeah, it's interesting. In the behind the scenes stuff, one of the writers said that according to their calculations, the explosion at the end of episode 5 was 1/8 the impact of the asteroid that killed the dinosaurs.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah.
So it made a deep impression, obviously.
And he did say specifically it was a fusion drive, which I don't think, having finished the whole season, I don't think it's ever like they say what it was that exploded, other than there was a huge explosion. Yeah, I thought that was interesting. It's just he called it an ancient fusion drive, I think is what he called it.
It was almost too like I think they were explaining, because there's several mountains that were overheating. It was almost like it was cooling itself to release that pressure.
Giant zit finally popped.
I feel like a lot of these 2 episodes really focused of Holden and his crew, or the not the action, because action's not it wasn't just full of action, but all of the drama of it all. I think focused mostly on them. Honestly, I'd forgotten about Bobby and like what her storyline is because she was kind of featured a little in episode 6, but not a ton. And then we had Avis Raw in episode 5, but most of what's going on is just focused with Holden. And I don't know, maybe it would make more sense if I would binge watch all of this together, but I kind of didn't like that everything sort of felt kind of spread out and neglected. I mean, I've also not read the book, so maybe that's how it is in the books, or maybe they give a little bit more equality to it.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's the pacing in a book is going to be more even than a show, almost across the board, because you don't have to worry about the visual aspects of things or that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But I don't remember. It's been a while since I read, what is it, book 4? Is it book 4 that's season 4? I don't remember.
I think so. Maybe. I don't know.
There's aspects of it, I think, book 4 or book 5. I had to look it up. It's been a while.
Yeah, same. But how do we feel? My opinion of Avasarala kind of changes this season. Like we love her, right? Because she's Avasarala. But you kind of see it's almost like the career politician that she's become.
Yeah.
And now she's finally top dog, and she's getting challenged now by Gao, who's almost, I don't want to say like the Andrew Yang, because then it's like, well, you just call it Andrew Yang because they're both Asian. But like like a younger politician that's like clever and smart and knows what they're talking about. And so, yeah, I think is it episode 5 where she tries to call Gao out for skipping the line or whatever, and then Gao's like, well, let me tell you exactly what happened to everybody I skipped and how I helped them, except for the guy that overdosed. So yeah, that was kind of interesting to see Avasarala almost kind of fall apart.
It's fun to see her uncomfortable because she is such a prominent character. My favorite scene happened to be when she's trying to do an interview and they're telling her to be maternal,
right?
Like a maternal patriarch, and her husband's trying to help her, like, use simpler terms, like people moving.
Yeah,
that scene makes me laugh so hard because because it's not Albert Sorella at all. Like, she's very blunt, and yes, she is now a careered politician, that she's almost not human anymore,
Right.
and like doesn't have normal human interactions, and that's very apparent with her conversations through this whole season, even with her husband.
Yeah.
But that scene with the camera, I felt like really kind of displayed where she's at now. Like, she is so uncomfortable, and everything is backfiring on her. And it's almost like the new politician is younger, more beautiful, and she's hungry. It's challenging her stance on the mountain, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think you can get that too, just from the scene where they're having like their discussion or their debate. You sort of feel the tension in the room, like you were like you're there almost.
Yeah.
Kind of like the way that you do if like you watch like a political debate or something like that in real life too. It has that same feel, and you can tell that there's the sort of the older generation versus the younger up and coming generation, and you kind of have to find the one that you either side with, or you have to find the balance between them, because there should be a balance. But you can definitely tell that there's something there that is brewing. I mean, which is sort of the theme of the whole season, I feel like, is that this thing's brewing. And from what I've read, I think that it sort of comes to head at the end of the season, as you would expect.
Yeah, you also have this notion about, we got these new worlds through the gates. There's about 1,400 planets which we can explore. Should we just have a free-for-all and go for it?
Mm-hmm.
But there's dangers. We know there's dangers because these aliens created these things, and we don't know that much about these alien types, and so we have to be cautious as well. So you see the old school versus the new school, right? So Alvar Sorella is very cautious because she knows the threat. She knows the danger. If you're a younger politician, it's human nature. Let's just go and do it. We have people who's on basic. We can put them to work.
Yeah.
One thing you just sort of made me think about, Joel, is how you see the scene where you see the two groups sort of arguing, and Holden's in the middle, and he's just trying to break it up and find the common ground. But obviously both factions have their reasons for being there. They have their right to be there, whether or not you agree with it. And it makes me think, again, to real world comparisons about how you have these people fighting over two things when there's like a big catastrophe coming, and it takes that for them to just put aside their differences and try to work. But even still, you see Mercury come, and he's like, hey, if it comes down to one or the other, it's going to be us. Like, I hope you realize that.
Yeah.
And it just kind of rubbed me the wrong way, because I'm always somebody that I like to find the middle ground if I can. I don't really like to take sides unless it's like blatantly obvious one is better than the other. I didn't like the fact that he still has this in the back of his mind, but then again, that is his character.
Yeah. That's completely his character.
Does make sense.
Well, one of the things I was noticing too, though, is that I feel like this season has been about point of views, and everybody has a certain point of view about a certain situation, which is one being on this planet. The Belters are just trying to find a new place to live. They don't have anywhere to live. They're just trying to make a little money so they can kind of settle down. But then you have Mercury, who's pissed off that these people are there illegally because they don't have the contract, but also his point of view from his friends being killed. And then you have Holden, who's got this savior complex, who's just trying to figure out this whole thing with Miller and the proto-molecule. I like that there's different points of view about the same thing. And it's actually probably one of my favorite things of why I loved Black Panther so much, the Marvel movie, because Killmonger's point of view wasn't wrong. It was just the way he went about things was the wrong way. I do feel like Mercury, yes, eventually more kind of drags out about his motivations, but his motivation isn't wrong. His friends were murdered, from these Belters, but the Belters were also just trying to say like, hey, come on, man, let us have our space and let us have our own. So I feel like the point of view of everybody is correct. It's just that middle ground is it's hard to find. And the only thing that brings them back together is Well, they're about to be wiped out by a big giant wave that they can't ride on a surfboard. So, yeah.
Yeah, totally. There's a couple of really good lines from Murtry between episodes 5 and 6. I think in 5 is where he goes, of course I'm the bad guy. I guess I just have that face, which is hysterical because that actor totally has the bad guy face. So
the bad guy, everything.
Yeah, exactly. So that line made me crack up. And then the next episode, he walks up to Holden, just kind of, there's the whole gunfight after the 2 RCE people are taken hostage. And Murtry just kind of walks up and he looks over at Holden and goes, I'd ask you what your opinion is, but honestly, I don't give a frick. Which I love that line because it's just like, oh, this guy is a bad guy.
He's a bad guy, but he's doing what he's getting paid to do, right? He's a top-notch security guy. Of course he's not going to trust people. Of course he's going to protect his own people. Of course there's a brutal tribalism going on, right? We're going to feed our people before these people.
But also he's got a bad guy's face.
Bad guy's face, and yes, he's a jerk, and yes, he has this bias thing going on, which is obvious, right? You may say he's even, racist or prejudicial towards non-UN people. Yeah, terrible.
I like that we have a new bad guy, though, just because Aaron Wright is now kind of out of the picture.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But Murtry looks like a bad guy. He, like Ian said, you mentioned the line where he's got that face. But he is clearly just somebody who like points needles in my skin.
Mm-hmm.
You know, every time he shows up on screen, you just want to punch the guy.
Yeah,
and it's funny because what Amos is feeling every time he's around him, it's like the same thing I'm feeling.
Mm-hmm.
But I like that we have Murtry because he adds so much tension. As soon as he's on camera, you feel it. It's a great chemistry as far as acting ability goes because he's really good at being a bad guy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think it's really interesting to see his second in command, Wei, and her relationship with Amos. How she has another really good line in 5 where she's just talking to Amos and she just goes, "You're so freaking weird." Like, it's just, I love someone telling that to Amos's face. But I like them too because they're both in a similar situations where it's like, okay, so we've got this, I guess, Romeo and Juliet thing going on or whatever. And as soon as my boss tells me to kill you, I'm going to kill you, which is just interesting.
Yeah.
Which is even funnier because at the end of episode 6, when they're going down into the like the ruins,
mm-hmm.
As he is going down, she kisses him. He's like, "What was that for?" And she said, "Just in case."
Yep.
It's like a will they, won't they, forbidden love type thing.
Mm-hmm.
You never thought like Amos could find his soulmate, you know, because he's so weird. He really is. He's a weird guy. Especially in, I think it was in episode 1, he's asking about what Avasarala was wearing.
Yeah, I still think that's my favorite line of the whole season. I just want to know what she's wearing.
But
yes, true love does exist.
Yeah. Wei's a good, yin yang to him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
because she's just as weird too. She's kind of cold blooded in the same way.
Mm-hmm. Oh, there's another scene that I kind of liked. It's just one of those ones that's not really anything to do with the plot, but I love seeing who's his face, Ashford, watching the video of him with his son.
Oh,
and
yeah,
that was really, really cool. And it was really interesting kind of seeing him let his baby just like float in the air. You know, it's just kind of a cool look into like, I don't know, what life in space will be like when it inevitably happens.
Yeah.
Letting your babies float.
Yeah, it sounds like that would be incredible. Just like, because I mean, I think about it now, right? I got number 4 coming in August. It's like you got to hold the baby, which is fun to do and nice. But how nice would it be also to just like let it go in the air and it's just go off and do something else for a minute.
Right,
come
Ian,
back, your baby's gonna be in the same place.
But the question is, Ian, are you going to become a space pirate? Okay,
I don't know.
Maybe.
Don't know where this world's gonna take me.
Ashford makes it look, makes it look cool though.
Yes, he does romanticize it.
It's funny because like I feel like the song he was singing, and even some of the other songs that the Belters sing, sound very much like Irish pub songs to me.
Mm-hmm. Very much.
Yeah. It does, and there's a tie there with the OPA and the IRA. I can see the link from season 1, definitely.
So maybe somebody could clarify it for me. And I haven't seen episode 4 in a while. what was the deal? Like, what's Bobby's storyline again? In as it relates to 5 and 6, like she's with like the black market or something, right?
Pretty much, yeah. So she's not, I guess, almost being blackmailed into doing this job.
Yeah,
with the guy who's like with the cops, and so yeah, they're doing this yeah, you should call it black market gig to go and strip these. It's not retrograde. What are they doing to the Mars? They are
bombing all the military stuff, right? So put it on storage, right?
Well, yeah, but they're shutting down these towers. The one that she was climbing.
Right.
And the towers are terraforming. Thank you. That's the word I was thinking, not retrograding. Terraforming. And this is also interesting. I made that video a while ago with the differences in the intros. And episode 6 is where, after episode 6, in the scene where you can see those towers, they are now all off for the rest of the season, which is kind of interesting. But yeah, so they're basically going into strips and parts to sell on the black market.
I think she was blackmailed into it because it was her nephew, right?
Yeah.
Or something like that. No, she was just trying to save. And then I think at a certain point, it becomes about money for her because she loses her job because she's kind of got that black mark on her record for not signing the deal, which was to kind of lie about what happened and why she did the things she did against Mars. But I mean, from her standpoint, and even from the viewer standpoint, she was doing it for Mars. But yeah, it's kind of interesting because you're starting to. I hate Bobby's role in this whole thing just because I feel like she's such a badass and I like to see her in space doing her thing. But her role is very essential because you're starting to see the connection now of why even Mars and even what's going on with Marcos is starting to connect and what's going on with there and how the Belters are starting to get Martian technology, which is starting to be mentioned. I believe in 6, they started mentioning that whole thing.
Yeah, they did. One thing that I noticed too, and it's kind of surprisingly bugged me this season, is the lack of space, like in space action and drama. Like most of what we're seeing, like 3 of sort of the 4 main storylines and main group of characters that we're following are all at like on a planet at a specific location. Like they're not in space. And I kind of miss the space travel and going to different locations instead of just staying on one the whole time. And again, they're obviously following a book, so they have to go by the book. And they can't go. They can't divert too off course. But it's kind of made me a little nostalgic for seeing all of the cool space travel and the ships and everything that was going on in past seasons. It's still very fun to be like filming at a real place, obviously with, effects and background shots added and whatnot, but it's not just a green screen or a spaceship set that was physically built. But I do hope that in the following season, we sort of get off the ground and back into space, or at least travel to more locations. And it doesn't just keep going to planet side sets the whole time.
Yeah, that's definitely lacking in this season. But I mean, it makes sense because we're dealing with new planets, so I guess it would make sense that we spend time on those planets. But there is a lot of the cool. One of the things that makes me so excited for the future of space travel, whether or not I get to see any of it in my lifetime, I'm assuming I don't. Definitely not at this level. It's so grounded in reality that it's just so cool to see. Anytime there's anything going on in space, it's awesome. So yeah, I kind of feel you there. By
the way, I wanted to mention the whole thing with the eye infection really just irks me so much because I don't like things with eyes. Like I could watch any surgery, on YouTube and be fine. But if there's something like eye surgery, I like freak out. So seeing this green eyeball infection start to appear, it just gives me the creeps.
Now that's happening to more than just the doctor character, right? Because I think I see like a child in the ruins like wiping his eye.
Yeah, that all gets fleshed out later on, but yeah, it's you could kind of see it's starting to spread, and they're not sure exactly what it is, except when she did that cool eye scan, Okoye did. She did the eye scan, which Ian mentioned. I think he likes seeing the technology being used and how it's being done. That's kind of a cool scene, but kind of see it this is a little just green sludge in the eye. It's just yeah, it's pretty creepy.
Mm-hmm. Especially now that it's allergy season.
I didn't like it either.
Especially now it's quarantine season.
Yeah. We're quarantined, and I just spent a bunch of time up with the tulip fields. So I was rubbing my own eyes yesterday, sniffling my nose. Just when I watch this, I'm like, oh no.
I really like Okoye's character though. I want to see more of her too. Like she's just one of those ones where you put in that category.
Mm-hmm. No, she's a great character.
I feel like she's sane compared to everyone else around her.
Yep.
But she's very much a scientist. She's curious, so she keeps asking Holden the question, like, you know more than you're telling me, and it does come off very authentic in the sense of science. Like you always have questions.
Yeah, and she doesn't care about the politics. She just wants to get to the truth.
Go science, go.
Yeah.
I don't know how I feel about everything with Drummer and Ashford. I know we kind of touched on it already, but I feel like if any story should have been maybe focused on a little bit more, it should have been that one, because I find it a little, and maybe it's just because I'm watching so sporadically and I'm not binging it, but I feel like they don't devote enough time to what's going on with them. I feel like they went a whole entire episode without even having them in any scene, and then they bring them back, and I'm like, okay, well, I'm trying to remember from 2 episodes ago what was happening. Like maybe something should have been thrown in episode 5, even just like a throwaway scene almost, to sort of just remind us of what's going on. Because that's if I can critique just the show in general, like a big critique, it is that it can get a little confusing at times if you don't pay attention to the characters and their factions and their motivations. I don't think that's always really spelt out probably the way it is in the books. Because I know the people that have read the books have a much easier time with it, but that is probably my only major critique so far with just the show in general, but this season especially. I've actually, one good thing about having it streaming is that I can watch with subtitles, and I can see pronunciations and spellings and hear things better than I could if I was just watching it without.
Yeah,
I agree with you, Chris.
Yeah, and I agree too. Yeah,
their chemistry is so good together because they have different opinions about the same thing, and their arguments are very intelligent in the sense too, because they have the same goal, but sometimes their philosophies don't match. So I do agree with you. I wish we could see more of them on screen.
I think they deserve their own spinoff series myself.
They need to have like a good cop, bad cop type drama.
Yeah, that's right. Buddy cop drama. I can see that. It'd be great. And I like the complicated nature of the Expanse. Yeah, you have to pay attention, because if you don't pay attention, things don't make sense. I like that. I like to be challenged.
I will say, I think that once the show wraps up and concludes, it will be a massive thrill for someone to go and just watch it all the way through from start to finish. I think there'll be a little bit of bumps in the road with transitions between formats and whatnot, but otherwise I think it's confusing now, but to someone that's going to watch it later, it probably won't be.
Yeah, I agree with that.
One last thing I wanted to mention too was I kind of feel like The Expanse has taken a little bit from a show like The Man in the High Castle, which is also an Amazon show. For those of you that have seen it, and I think you guys will have to correct me. I think some of you have watched it or have started watching it.
I have.
I have.
Okay. It's very character driven too. Some episodes are very dull. Some of them are very fast paced, have a lot of dialogue, a lot of just, world building and character building and stuff. I think that season 4 has that same characteristic to it. And it kind of makes me wonder if that was intentional, if it was just accidental, or if it's just a coincidence. I don't know. I mean, you guys have seen The Man in the High Castle too, so I don't know if you could provide any insight into that.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think you're right. I've been watching some Apple TV shows because I got it for free because I bought an iPhone, and there's commonality on the production, how they do the production. So how at least the final product comes across. I'm not sure if Amazon is purposely doing that and trying to have some sort of vibe to their shows. But the Man in High Castle, I hope that, I think that it's unfair to compare the two. I can see the point where the characterizations are important, but unlike The Man in High Castle, outside of probably season 1, right, because it's based off the novel, there's an entire series of The Expanse. We're just waiting for the last book, so there is a roadmap, right? So
True.
if you read the books, you know that there's the plot. Whereas I think by season 4 of The Man in High Castle, it got weird and it got stupid, in my opinion. And we're making like huge plot leaps and all that, and it lost what it was trying to do from season 1.
Yeah, I completely agree with you there, Joel. I lost so much interest in Man in the High Castle. We never even finished it last season. Didn't care. Like, we got probably 4 episodes into the last season, and we're just like, why are we watching this?
And what happened with that is because, of course, they got canceled the last season, so they had to wrap up the storyline very, very quickly.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, happens all the time, unfortunately.
Fire.
Almost happened to this show.
Exactly.
Well, is there anything else that you guys want to bring up?
I think maybe just quickly want to mention too, I kind of like finding out about what happened with Naomi from her side and her point of view.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That was a kind of an important character development because we always knew, there was something where she had a son and now she's kind of off doing her own thing. And that was a very touching scene in the sense where she's still got a lot of pain from it. And why not? It's a very painful moment in her life, but she's using it to do good. And she even inspires Lucia to use that pain and kind of prove to her daughter that she still cares about her and what she's doing. She's trying to figure out that she's doing right. And it's kind of one of those things where, like, I kind of had a bad childhood, and sometimes I blame my parents in real life, but also they did their best.
Yeah.
It's kind of the way I see it. And it's inspired me even to be a better father to my own son. So that scene for me, especially being a parent, like, kind of meant a lot to me.
Yeah, no, I think that's important. And that's another thing too, is just speaking about being a parent. That's what kind of snaps Lucia out of her wanting to die. Is when Alex is like, "Don't make me tell you that I let you, tell your daughter that I let you die." So that was a powerful moment.
Yeah, she can't even die right.
Yeah.
Which is the line she says to her. Yeah.
I mean, honestly, kind of looked like a peaceful death. Maybe just slowly bleeding out in space. Floating.
Yeah. How I read that is she took the dressing off her wound to purposely kill herself. So.
Yeah.
And then she didn't want to be saved either. So it was just very heartbreaking. Obviously, she doesn't get her wish, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, on that note, everybody.
Yeah, what a very happy note to end the episode on.
Yeah, not sure about you guys, but I need another nap right now. Okay.
This quarantine life's just rough, man. I had to go support a local donut shop this morning. Life's rough.
All right, we will start to wrap up the show then, I guess. If you want to follow us on Twitter, you can do so at Crash Couch. I don't tweet too much there at the moment just because there's honestly not a lot to go on. Not a lot to tweet about, but I will promote this episode as soon as it goes out. I encourage you to do the same. If you want to follow me on Twitter, you can do so at The Curse of Chris. Ernie, what about you?
You can follow me on Twitter or Instagram at Your Buddy Ernie. And then I just recently brought back my podcast, Talking Earnestly, which right now I'm not doing the serious conversations that I was originally intended, but I'm doing watch-alongs. Since everybody is doing quarantine right now, I figured can have a little conversation while watching a certain movie, and people could pop it on and kind of have that conversation.
That's kind of a fun idea.
So
there you go. Good way to put it. Ian, what about you?
I, for the longest time, would say follow me at Ian the Beard on Twitter, but I just don't really use that account much anymore. So now you can follow me at Bearded ASMR. Don't worry, I don't just tweet about ASMR, but I do sometimes.
I feel like most of the time when I see your tweets, they're not about ASMR. So do you ever tweet about it?
Occasionally. I mean, so essentially, I started a YouTube channel a year and a half ago or something like that, and I haven't uploaded anything to it for like a year, but I still do a ton of like I help a lot of people who start ASMR channels just because I'm just being an audio guy, and I've kind of turned into like a go-to dude to just help people, and I've made a lot of friends that do ASMR. And so while there's a large kind of community I'm a part of on that Twitter account, it's also just become my general account for everything.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Very cool. And last but not least, Joel.
I can be found on Twitter at Joel_Welch, and I do a little, I don't know, how would you describe my podcast? Quirky, I suppose.
Quirky is a great word for it, yes.
The sci-fi pubcasts. We usually get an episode out every 2 weeks, and nowadays we upload it to YouTube the following day. So you can get it as a podcast, or you can get it as a YouTube video. Yay.
Yay.
Okay.
Hopefully, I'll actually be able to resume my podcast, Chasing Fandom, at some point here in the future. Between everything that happened last summer and then the fall being busy and then now this year being busy, it's just been very difficult to find time to devote to little side projects that I always have great ideas for. But hopefully that'll be something I can start up soon. So we'll all have our own little projects.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, I think that'll do it this time. If you are somebody that wants to rewatch the episodes with us, next time we will be discussing episodes 7 and 8, I think.
Yep.
So I don't know what we'll do, if we'll do a 9 and 10, probably a 7 and 8, 9 and 10 again. So sort of keep it just like we are now. If you have anything you want us to talk about from those episodes, just tweet it or send us a DM. I will see it if that's the case. So I think that's everything. So we'll see y'all next time. And thanks for listening. Take care.
Bye now. Take care.